Thank you. Thank you. I think Walt somehow got into my iPad and stole my speech, because most of what he said I have in my speech. But anyway, I want to say good evening, members of the IACP and your guests. I hope everyone had a really terrific conference. You were able to take advantage of the monumental training programs that we put on, as well as all the networking opportunities that were presented. As Walt did, I also want to thank our major sponsors, including AT&T, Motorola, NC4, and SAIC. I'd also like to make a special thanks to Target Corporation for hosting parties every year for the incoming president and hosting my party this year. A special thank you to Target for that. But before I begin my talk, there are some people that I also need to recognize and thank for their support over the years, and who made it possible for me to stand before you tonight. Each of these individuals are equally important, and all were in some way responsible for my accomplishments in my career. So I would ask that you hold your applause till we get done, or we may be here for a while, because I've been around for a while. So as I go through these, I'd ask that as I announce your name, if you would stand so that the rest of the audience can see who you are. My city council, who has supported me from the very beginning of my involvement in the IACP, Mayor Gus Morrison, Vice Mayor Anu Natarajan, who is here tonight, Councilmember Sue Chan, Councilmember Bill Harrison, and Councilmember Dominic Dutra. My city manager, Fred Diaz, the most passionate and intelligent city manager I've ever worked for in my career, and I've worked for 9 different city managers. And 2 very bright men that work with him, Assistant City Manager Mark Denage and our HR Director Brian Stout. As a chief, I've been very fortunate to have worked with outstanding command personnel over the years. And tonight, the current and some of our past command personnel are here. Captains Richard Lucero and Clarice Liu, retired Captain Mike Lanham, previous Fremont PD Captain and now Sheriff of Contra Costa County, David Livingston, Lieutenants Mark Devine, Tony Duckworth, Rob Lancy, John Liu, Tom Mickelson, Kimberly Peterson, Mark Riggs, and Sean Washington. Our professional managers are here: Ms. Geneva Vasquez, Ms. Shelley Green, Ms. Cheryl Lesage, Ms. Maya Williams, and Ms. Agnes Livingston. Without the immense help and the constant support of the staff, it would be all but impossible for me to be standing before you tonight. Also, the Board of Directors of the Fremont Police Association have come down to join me this evening. Sergeants Fred Bobbitt, Mark Dang, Pat Epps, Jeremy Muscella, Matt Snelson, Mike Tegner, Steve DeLima, our Association President Greg Pipp, and board members Randy Burkhammer, Jeff Lawrence, and Brian Shadle. To all the current and past members of the Fremont Police Department, I owe you a debt of gratitude for your encouragement and support. To all the members of the California Police Chiefs Association, who both physically and financially assisted me with my campaign back in 2007. A special thanks to Dan Rosenblatt. Dan mentored and guided me throughout my time on the executive committee and in the board of officers. He helped me and many of the past presidents you see up here to be successful. My special thanks for his being here tonight and to celebrate and for swearing me in as president. All the past presidents who are here tonight, either physically here or here in spirit, I've had the privilege since I first joined the executive committee to work under 15 different past presidents and I learned something from every one of them. President Walt McNeil, our current Board of Officers, and the Executive Committee. I've been very fortunate, and it has been my pleasure and good fortune to work with such a knowledgeable, ethical, and dedicated group of law enforcement professionals. Chief Ellen Hansen of the Lenexa, Kansas Police Department. Ellen is a legend in the law enforcement profession. She was my campaign manager and made many of the trips with me to various state conferences during my campaign. I, too, want to recognize the unsung heroes, the men and women of the IACP staff. They're a great group of dedicated people, and despite all of the challenges, they make the IACP work every day for us. They are the ones who are working behind the scenes of the IACP to move it forward, and they will continue to be the ones to make sure we rise to the next level. Two of our children are here tonight, Terry Adams and my son Mark, as well as two of my sisters, Becky and Mary. And finally, but most importantly, my wife Casey. She's made this journey with me beginning over 40 years ago. Like every spouse or partner of an officer, she's made sacrifices, acting as both parents on a lot of holidays, birthdays, sporting events, family gatherings. She's the love of my life, my partner, my biggest fan, my advisor, and my critic. She's kept me grounded and reminds me that whatever success I might have achieved, it was due to many people over the last 40 years. Mentors are too numerous to mention, but I want to mention three out of everybody that I've had an opportunity to mentor with. Gary Brown, the police chief in San Clemente, who promoted me to lieutenant, giving me the opportunity to get my first chief's job. Marty Mayer of Jones and Mayer, my legal counsel since 1980, never led me astray. And Rocky Lucia of Raines Lucia Stearns, who taught me the fine art of negotiations. My thanks to everyone that I didn't mention, but have been a part of my career and helped me. Thank you very much for that. I'm truly blessed to be here tonight and take the presidential oath to serve the members of the IACP. I do not undertake this oath lightly. I know the immense responsibility that accompanies being president of this noble organization. Each of our past presidents has brought values, ideas, and initiatives to advance the IACP and, in turn, the law enforcement profession during their time as president. This is especially true of our past president, Walt McNeil. For the past year, he has led this organization with honor, with drive, and with determination. He launched, and we will continue, a number of critical initiatives that will benefit not just the IACP, but our profession as a whole. In particular, his work on wrongful convictions and the need for a National Commission on Criminal Justice. These initiatives will remain top priorities for the IACP. Walt, you have set a terrific example for all who will follow you. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your friendship. The IACP is a truly remarkable organization. For the past 119 years, the IACP has blazed the trail for professional law enforcement leaders across the globe. The IACP has aided thousands of law enforcement executives throughout their careers and has helped define the policing profession as well as to shape it to what it is today. However, as the IACP begins our 120th year, it is clear that our association and our profession are at a critical juncture in our history. Policing in the 21st century presents challenges that were simply unimaginable just a short time ago. Agencies are being asked to provide levels of service that are simply unsustainable in our current economic climate. Unfortunately, this does not appear to be a temporary situation, but rather the new normal. It is not just for lack of resources that is impacting our agencies, but the tasks we're being asked to accomplish. We are dealing with more diverse communities. We've taken on the burden of domestic terrorism. We're investigating sophisticated computer crimes and cyber attacks. We're dealing with the impact of social media. In some parts of the country, we're being directed to conduct immigration enforcement and, unbelievably, having to combat the rising tide of drug legalization and abuse. In short, we're dealing with a new reality, a reality which requires new ways of thinking and new ways of doing business. It's no different for the IACP. Our members rightly expect, in fact they demand, that we become more efficient and responsive to their needs and concerns. They want us to more quickly anticipate emerging issues in policing, to provide them with the necessary information, the analysis, the guidelines, the model policies much faster than we've done historically. It is our responsibility to meet those expectations and make sure that our members have information they need to succeed. Ensuring that this occurs requires a commitment, a vision, determination, and hard work. Our vision is clear. The IACP has been and continues to be the premier law enforcement association of the world, and we are committed to our vision of serving the leaders of today and developing the leaders of tomorrow. Transforming that vision into reality will be hard work. It is up to all of us, the IACP Board of Officers, the Executive Committee, the new Executive Director, Bart Johnson, the IACP staff, and all of you who are members of the IACP to ensure that the changes that are needed actually occur. Over the coming year, your association will be moving forward in a number of areas. New methods of outreach, enhanced membership communication, model policy responses, membership recruitment that will strengthen our organization, as well as allow us to better serve our members. One of the first and most obvious changes our members will see is a totally revamped website. It is long overdue, as our website is difficult to surf and to get information from. We've entered into a partnership with Microsoft to revise, update, and maintain our website, theiacp.org. We are also conducting a comprehensive review of our Constitution and rules in order to ensure that they reflect the modern realities that we face by removing existing bureaucratic roadblocks to becoming a lean and fast-responding association, while balanced to protect the association. I'm confident that we will succeed, and I look forward to Philadelphia next year when my term ends, and I'm able to report to you that we've made significant progress towards achieving these goals, that we have streamlined our operations, increased our efficiency, developed new private sector partnerships, grown our membership by 10%, made good on our promise to quickly provide our members with information, and diligently analyze trends so that we can better serve the communities we're sworn to protect. Of course, the IACP will remain committed to the long-standing efforts to prevent violence against police. No effort of the IACP is more important, and no mission has more meaning to our membership. On average, over the past 10 years, we have seen 58,000 felony assaults against police officers annually. Leading this effort will be the IACP's newly created Center for Officer Safety and Wellness. Building upon the work of the Safe Cop, Safe Shield program, the IACP Center for Officer Safety and Wellness will work to protect law enforcement officers from the threats and dangers inherent in policing. We will continue to foster a culture of safety and wellness within our profession that will allow law enforcement leaders to demonstrate that officer safety and wellness is, for all of us, our topmost priority. The center will not duplicate the work of others, but instead will complement it. Other organizations do very fine work of honoring and supporting our profession, but much more attention needs to be given to looking at the prevention of violence and injury to law enforcement officers. That is what this center is designed to accomplish. The center will also continue to closely examine issues related to traffic and highway safety that take such a high toll on both our officers and citizens alike. As Walt mentioned, the officer suicide will remain an issue that we'll be working on. According to statistics collected by the IACP, as a result of President McNeil's initiative, approximately 150 officers commit suicide every year in the United States. This is a higher number than any single violent act against police officers that leads to death. This appalling number certainly increases when you count the number of suicides committed by officers in other countries. This is a tragedy that can be prevented, and these horrific numbers can be reduced. The heartbreak of an officer's suicide can be alleviated if we know what to look for and recognize that oftentimes an officer will send signals, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle, that they are in distress and need help. IACP studies will help chiefs and command officers to identify when an officer is having difficulties and what they can do to help that officer. It is no longer acceptable to tell an officer to suck it up. We will continue to work closely with the Psychological Services section, the Police Physicians section, and the Research Advisory Committee to continue to conduct a thorough study and research of this focus area. We will seek assistance from the IACP committees and our international partners. Our executive director has already started this effort through contacts with and interactions with the Department of Defense and the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention. I am confident these relationships will contribute to our efforts within the IACP. There's another important initiative that we will accomplish this year, and there's an urgent need for us as a profession to review and update our strategies for officer-involved shootings. Fortunately, the vast majority of officers during their entire career will never fire a duty weapon in defense of themselves or others. The same is true for police organizations. Many will go years between an officer-involved shooting if they ever have one. But should it happen, our members need to be prepared. Our members need guidelines and sample policies that do not conflict on how to handle that investigation. Our members should be given a menu of options, all of which will lead to a complete, fair, and unbiased investigation. This is the expectation every chief has, and certainly the expectation that the communities have that we serve. It goes without saying, but it is also critical that we be cognizant of the mental health of the officer involved. If we don't deal with the matter of mental health appropriately, we have the potential to needlessly lose a good officer. As a companion issue to an officer-involved shooting, we need to be cognizant that other department members are also affected. Other officers at the scene as well as the often overlooked dispatchers, we must not overlook their mental health. In order to accomplish this initiative, I've asked a number of IACP committees and sections to work together to develop a set of comprehensive guidelines to try and reconcile the different opinions already issued by committees in such areas as when is it best to interview the officer, how much time should you wait to interview an officer, should an officer be able to review a video of the shooting. At the end of the day, a chief should have an understanding of the dynamics involved in an officer-involved shooting. They should understand there are options available and what those options are, as well as how the pluses and minuses of each option. Wrongful convictions initiative started again by President McNeil will continue during my term of office. This is too important an issue to be abandoned, and as law enforcement professionals, we must continue our effort to address this challenging concern. To date, developments in DNA analysis have resulted in the discovery of 250 cases of wrongful convictions for serious offenses in 37 different states, some more egregious than others. 5 years ago, here in San Diego at the conference, 3 of our committees, Police Investigative Operations, Police Image and Ethics, and the Forensic Committee, submitted a resolution identifying 4 areas of concern which lead to wrongful convictions: false confessions, inadequate investigations, mistaken eyewitness identification, and delayed, absent, mistaken, or improper forensic services. The following year, in 2008, in a Police Chief magazine article, it was noted that 16 people had been sentenced to death before DNA proved their innocence and led to their release. By one researcher study done in 2006, it's been estimated that 0.5% of all felony cases are wrongful convictions, travesties of justice that give the proverbial get-out-of-jail-free card to the real offenders. Finally, I know you're waiting for that. Finally, as I mentioned earlier and throughout this talk, we are policing in the 21st century. We are working with diminished resources. Every minute of an officer's time must be dedicated to productive and proactive policing. We must take a critical and unbiased look at the false burglar alarms and determine whether, in the new normal, this type of call is truly a prudent use of severely limited resources. According to studies, last year there were more than 38 million false alarm calls in the United States. In many agencies, alarm calls are the #1 call for service, and statistically, these calls often account for nearly 10% of all the calls for service the agency handles on an annual basis. Additionally, every study of the issue continually finds that 99% of all alarms are false. The question we need to ask ourselves is, in the 21st century policing world, where we are consistently doing less with less, is it a wise use of scarce resources? Is the only strategy for law enforcement to reduce the number of times they respond to an alarm to continue to apply a 15-year-old failed strategy of finding the alarm owner? Unfortunately, this troubling trend is likely to grow. According to alarm industry reports, over 1 million alarms a year are being sold and added to the database. From an officer safety standpoint, this is a type of call that can get an officer injured or killed. Officer safety and caution is often thrown to the wind after officers respond to literally hundreds of false alarms each year. Officers naturally become complacent, feeling that the call will be another false alarm. So what's the answer? What options does a police chief have when it comes to dealing with millions of false alarms across the country? It's my belief that there are multiple options available to every police leader. They range from change nothing, business as usual, to refusing to respond to an alarm until it's independently verified. And there are many options in between those two. I believe the IACP should provide our members with a list of choices and response models, as well as the pros and cons of each. Additionally, our members should be made aware of how to implement the response models identified. It is our goal that by the end of my term, a well-researched white paper will be published by the IACP, which will provide all the identified best practices in an unbiased and straightforward way. The study should also include what historical impact there is on crime in general and burglaries in particular when a chief chooses a specific response model. I will leave you on this topic with one of Albert Einstein's more famous quotes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. These are just a few of my goals for my term as your president. As you can see, I believe they are bold, I believe they are contemporary, and I believe they are aggressive. I also believe they are attainable, but they cannot be accomplished without you. It is imperative that we have your help and your support throughout the year. You, the IACP membership, are the ones we turn to for ideas and feedback. You are the ones that must become involved and lend your expertise and experience to our joint efforts in order for police leaders to enhance the law enforcement profession. And it is only through your support and involvement that we will succeed in our vision of supporting the leaders of today and developing the leaders of tomorrow. To conclude my remarks, I am truly blessed. 44 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be selected to enter what I consider to be the noblest public service profession. My career has been filled with many highs, and to stand before you tonight as the newly installed 120th President of the IACP is a career high matched only by the day I was sworn in as a peace officer for the first time. My pledge to you tonight and to the staff of the IACP is I will put forth the most earnest effort possible. I will place the good of the members and the IACP as my first priority. I thank all of you here tonight for your support and your friendship. May God bless all of you. May Michael the Archangel protect your officers, and may God bless America. Thank you.